You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Hey entrepreneurs, it's your Podcast Mogul Phil Better here. I am excited for this episode as I know you are. Before we jump into this episode, I'm going to ask you if you are also a podcaster and you're looking to grow your podcast or monetize your podcast, make sure you stay till the end of the episode. I have a special deal for you, or a special offer, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself.
Gentlemen, welcome back to another amazing episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I'm excited to have our guest today, another Aussie from down under, an amazing entrepreneur who helps serious business owners take their business exponentially to the next level with low-cost, easy-to-implement strategies. So please welcome my guest, Kevin Hargraves. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hello. Well, thanks for asking me to be here, Phil. Welcome everybody who's listening.
I'm excited to get into knowing you a bit more. I read a little intro, but if you would be so kind to just introduce yourself quickly to my audience.
Okay, so I've been a successful business owner for more than 40 years. I've always bought businesses that were broke, built them up really fast, and sold them. So that's been my sort of forte. Then about 6 years ago, nearly 7 years ago, when my wife passed away, I thought, what am I going to do? I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and help business owners grow their business, because so many people out there in business, they're really good at what they do. In fact, they're great, but they've never learned how to run a business, and that's where I come in. And we get some great results for people, providing they implement. Obviously, if anyone doesn't implement, they fail to get things to happen. They get some great results, and look, it's not difficult stuff. It's just people don't realize it, you know.
Oh, and this is why I love having you on, because you're going to be able to share your over 40 years of expertise plus what you're doing now, which I can't believe. I never heard of people buying businesses as a business. Like that just didn't, like, I heard corporations and they just bring them into the corporation, and then that business disappears after 5-10 years, not buying it and then selling it for a profit. This is completely new to me, and this is exciting territory for me. How did you start that kind of business?
Well, it all started, I left high school and I got a job in the bank, and I was always in the back office, and the last year I was with the bank, I was in the front counter at the teller, and there was no credit cards or FPOS those days. It was check and cash, you know, and I used to see all this cash and checks coming in over the counter, and I used to go, God, I'm in the wrong job. I've got to get into business. So that's how it started. I bought a little wholesale food distribution. We tripled it, sold it as 2 separate businesses, And it started from there. Then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I thought, yeah, it's nice, but it doesn't give me the tools that I want. So then I read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I'd no sooner read it, and he was touring Australia, all the capital cities, and I went to the one in Brisbane, and and his motto was, a business is never done until it's sold. So, that's where I got that from, and that's what I did after that, It was interesting at that conference. There's something that just sticks in my mind. There was probably 300 people in the room, and he said, put your hand up and tell me your name and what business you're in and how you're going. Well, probably 30 people, I guess, put their hand up and said, I'm Phil and I do podcasts or whatever. And it's going good, right? Good. So it was 10 to 10. He said, in 10 minutes, we're going to have a break. There'll be tea and coffee and pastries outside. He said, you're welcome to help yourself. But all those business owners who put their hand up and told me that they're going good, he said, this is what I want you to do. He said, down in the foyer, he said, there's 4 public telephones. He said, I want you to go down there, ring your business and say this. Hi, it's Phil here. I'm going overseas for 3 months. Handle things, will you? And hang up. He said, now, if you can do that, you've got a business. He said, if you don't, you've got a job. He said, which one do you want? So it changed my whole outlook on business from that day forward. I then signed up to his coaching back in those days, which was just amazing stuff. It was only on like CD, but it was just amazing stuff. At that time, I just bought like pretty much wholesale, some retail landscape supply business that had one old truck, and I built it up in 3 years to have 14 trucks, 3 front-end loaders, an excavator, screening plant, and we were doing, we went from 1 to 14 trucks. We went from 200 grand to 2.5 million in 3 years, which was pretty good effort. And I used basically all these strategies. And that's what I still use today because they work in every business.
I love this. I love how you have your simple strategy that works in every business. You're able to now, you're taking all the knowledge you have and of building businesses in different niches and different industries, and now you're helping businesses find like what it says behind you, find 100K in just 45 minutes. That's an incredible offer. And so it was just you. The reason you just jumped in it, because I just want to summarize it, was you're sitting at the bank and you saw the money coming in and you're like, no, this is not me. And then one thing led to another, and now you went to buying multi businesses and making them jump from small to major industries.
Yep, that's what we did. So it's been a great ride with business. Businesses just runs through my blood these days. That's my life, start talking to me, I'll ask you about your business and say, well, what about this? Have you done this? And people go, oh, what do you mean?
I sorry to interrupt you. I love that because I'm like that with podcasting. Whenever someone has a podcast, I love talking to them about their podcast and learning. I'm like, have you done this to grow it? Have you done this to monetize? So I love that we have something similar running through our veins.
Yeah.
Is there possibly a moment in your 40 odd years, your 4 decades of business that highlights why you do, like keeps you warm on those tough nights? Because you're probably easy to the ebb and flow of business. It's ups and downs, and the highs and lows don't really bother you that much anymore. But sometimes you have that down day. Is there a memory or a moment that just you just go back to when you do have those bad days?
I'm just trying to think. A down day. Look, you're always going to have day. People say, "How's your day?" And I say, "Mate, my day's fantastic. Every day is. Some days are a bit worse than others, but I haven't had too many bad days. I had a day where I had an argument with one of my managers. It wasn't really an argument; it was a disagreement of opinion. And he said, "Well, if that's how you think, I don't want to be here." And I thought, "Oops, okay." So he left, and I thought, geez, now I've got to try and find someone as good as, because he was good, But, I always live by the philosophy that when one door closes, another one opens, and it's usually wider. And that's exactly what happens about a week later. So it just shows you, So I think if you can keep on that positive mindset, life doesn't get too bad,
I like that. I like that how you, even though you have the bad days, that something better is coming, and just like around the corner, it just pops in.
You just got to make it happen. You just sort of got to make it happen, Like, I don't know, something I've always been able to do,
So has that been something that you've been able to do since you like when you started, or was that something that you slowly learned and it became something that you do?
Yeah, look, I think it's a bit of a natural ability that I do have, but like it doesn't matter how good you're at anything. The more you do it, the better you get. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what the business, even your podcasting. I'm sure there's something you can do that will make it even better, because that's just how it is. Nothing's so good it can't be better. So that's what you've got to continue to strive for. That's what I've always done, and look, it just works if you do it. Something bad happens in some people's life today and they just get so down on themselves that it's just crazy, and it's not their fault. It's just life. That's what happens in life. You get bad days. I try not to even worry about the bad days. That's why I had to think when you asked me. I thought, what was that?
No, I love that. I love that you have this ability to let the bad days just flow out to sea, if you will, and keep those warm,
right.
those good memories. While you were transitioning from buying and selling businesses to coaching, did you find it a difficult transition, or was it something that you just, again, took to it like it was nothing?
Look, it took about a year to put together the content that I wanted to have, so I had it in place. You know what I mean? And I had a couple of clients on the way, but like I've got so much content now, and I've got so many systems in place that it just runs so much better. Whereas, which if you study the E Myth and Michael Gerber, it's all about having systems so things happen, and you're not chasing your tail, run around doing stuff. It's just happens in flow, and that's how you got to have a business running. If you want to have time in your life, I use this motto now. I said the definition of a great business, and I made this up, is an enterprise that makes great profits while you don't have to be there. And I think that is the definition of a great business.
That's the definition of great life. Like, you don't have to show up and you get paid. That's a great life.
That's it. That's what your ultimate goal should be.
I like that. I like that as an entrepreneur. That's something where you probably only learn that with the years of experience that you have. Because when we first start this entrepreneurial journey, we're always so short-sighted because we're worried about getting to the getting that dollar bill, or paying that bill, and that we're short-sighted. Whereas someone who has the time and the expertise like you can see the long picture. And it's like, I don't want to be inside the business. I want to be running the business.
That's right. Yeah, and that's what happens. Most people, especially if they come from different types of areas, whether it be a doctor, a physio, or accountant, they're so busy doing it, that they just don't get to work on the business, I mean, as I've said before, you can have the best product or service in the world, but if no one knows about it, they're never going to buy it off you. So marketing's pretty important in any business. However, I see lots of business owners spend lots of money on marketing, and when I say, well, how many sales or how many leads did you get from this? They can't even tell me. I said, well, you're paying here for whatever it is. Let's say it's SEO, and it's sending people to your website, and they go there, and you've got no point of difference from your competitor. So all they do is they have a look, nothing grabs them too much, so they scroll to the next one and probably the next one, and you've probably done it yourself. And you go down to 4 or 5 and you go, well, this is probably the best of a bad bunch. I'll ring this one, or I'll contact this one. You know what I mean? You need to have a point of difference, and it just needs to be powerful. I like to use the old Domino's ones. When they started, they used to say, fresh hot pizzas in 30 minutes or they're free. Like, you see the impact of that. If I've got a Pizza Hut shop and I do, what all the different pizzas are and stuff, but I've got no point of difference. Like, Domino's had a point of difference, and that's what you have to have.
I like that. And how did you come up with your point of difference, or do you have a process or formula to come up with process as a point of difference?
I've got a software that what we do is, so say you come to me and say, well, what can you do for me and whatever. I say, look, give me 4 numbers. Give me your gross annual revenue, your gross percentage profit margin, and your net percentage profit margin. And if you were to sell your business today, what do you think it would be worth? When I get those 4 numbers, I plug them into the software, and then I run through 12 different strategies and I present them to you. So let's call it market dominating position, which is what I say sets your business apart from your competitor. I run through a little presentation there, which takes a few minutes. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to do that presentation. I'll present it to you. At the end of that section, what I say is, look, Phil, if you were to implement that into your business, what percentage difference do you think it could make over a year? Now, they normally say anywhere from 10 to 15% or even higher. I'll say, look, say you said 15%. I say, look, Phil, I think 15% is achievable. But for today's exercise, how about we just put in 5% and keep it really conservative? Now, what happens is by the time you put in somewhere between 3 and 5% on 12 different strategies, and sometimes I'll go, look, this strategy doesn't really suit your business too much. We'll just put 0 in. I'm going to tell you, if it's half a business, I'm probably going to find them 100 grand in extra profit, because the compounding effect of 12 different strategies with 3 to 5% multiplies exponentially, and people don't realise it. So then I can give them a report and I say, well, this is what's possible. And don't forget, we use really conservative numbers, not what you suggested. In fact, I can do a demo on my website. You can go to it, kevinhargraves.com.au/simulator. You can go there and you can plug some numbers in and do a 3% or a 2% or 5% difference on all of those categories, and it'll bring up a new where you're going to be. So it's pretty powerful. That's the easiest way to do it, so people can go there and do that and see, wow, that's amazing. And that lists the 12 strategies. The trouble is most people don't know how to implement them.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. It's the hardest thing to implement them if you don't have someone like yourself. And what is it, when someone comes to you with their business and they want to start working with you, like they went to their website, they did the simulation, they saw how much it could work. What's the first step in the process of working with you, Kevin?
So I'll usually do a Zoom call like this, and I'll then ask them a heap of questions about their business. Where do they really want to take it? If I could get them another 20% more sales in the next 3 months, could they handle it? Because they want 20% more sales, but sometimes the back end won't handle it. So we need to get that sorted as well. There's a lot of little things to make fit together. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, like some business, like I just recently worked with a plumber, like on a one-to-one where I went to his place and his wife was there, and they were turning over 620 grand, I think it was, a year, but they were losing money. And she said, well, why are we losing money? Can you help? I said, I can. Send me a profit and loss and we'll have a look. So I had a look at it, and I'm not going to mention their name, but their wages and their superannuation, or whatever you call it in Canada, I'm not sure, some called 401k or something, was 59% of their turnover. I said, there's something wrong here. I said, you mustn't be quoting, or you must be underquoting, or you mustn't be charging your jobs out or something. She said, no, we do all that. So it must be the pricing. She said, it's not the pricing, Kevin. We've been charging this price for 10 years. I said, listen to what you just said. She stepped back a bit and thought. I said, let's call around some of your competitors and see. So we called around some competitors. Yeah, they were charging miles more. So we increased their call-out rate from 66 to 77, which is a 16% increase. We increased their call-out rate $25 per 15 minutes to $35 per 15 minutes. That's a 40% increase. Now, do you think that made a huge difference to their business?
Yeah.
And they never lost a sale. Like 3 months later, I was talking about the pricing, and I said, now, do you think the pricing's causing you any loss of sales? She said, absolutely nothing, because she said, you know why? Which I already knew. She said, because they don't know the price. I said, isn't that interesting? The other thing I did with them, they had a list of about, I don't know, I think it was 4,500 customers on their database. I said, what do you do with all these? She said, well, we don't do anything. I said, well, do you realise it costs 5 times as much to get a new client as it does to sell to the one you've already got? I said, how about we set up an email campaign? We'll do a 15 or 12 or 15 week series of emails, about different things. Because I said, here's the problem is someone might ring up and get their drain unblocked, but next year their hot water system goes and they don't even realise you do hot water systems, so they go back to Google again. You know what I mean? Or they might want their bathroom renovated. They don't realise you do that. They only think you do block drains. So we did that. Well, between those two things, that business just almost tripled. Just 2 things.
two simple things: engaging and
I usually like to have a look at the business just to see what's going on there and ask questions related to all of those 12 strategies so we can see, because then I usually prioritize. This one will be first, this one will be,
Jeez. I do want to talk about one of your strategies, one of the 12 strategies you have. We're going to give that as a freebie to the audience to tease them to go to your website, because I do want them to go to the website, see the other 12 strategies. What is one of the strategies listeners listening right now can implement like immediately in their business without having too much work?
I'll tell you the easiest strategy to implement, and you can do it today. Raise your prices. And the person who has the biggest problem with raising the price is the business owner. The customer doesn't really know the price. So if you put it up, because every dollar you put the price up goes into your bottom line, into your pocket, because it costs no more to produce whatever you're going to sell them, whether it's a service or whatever. Just put your price up. That's the easiest one. And the second easiest one is cut your costs. So if I go to a business and we're going to look at cutting costs, I'll go to their bank statement and we'll go through the expenses on there and we'll go, hang on, what's this? Oh, that's a subscription I signed up to. I said, do you use it? No. Well, it's $40 a month. Let's delete that, right? So we cancel all that. Go to their credit card, you'll find the same thing. I do a little presentation where I say how to increase your net profit by 58% in 5 minutes when you leave here. Put your price up 10%. Reduce your cost of goods by 5% and reduce your expenses by 5%. And it'll depend on the business and the margin, but it'll give you around about a 58% increase in your net profit. It's pretty powerful.
That is insane. How just small changes, like just taking a quick glance at your credit card statement to see what are the recurring expenses and where you can cut them can do so much for a business.
Yeah. Absolutely. But people just tend to pay them like every month because they reoccur. They go, oh, yeah, that's such and such. But they forget that they've never used it probably anyway, or they looked at it once and went, oh, too hard. But they still keep paying. It just amazes me.
That's insane. So
that's the two easiest strategies you can implement today and have them completed by the end of the week.
That is some amazing. I can't wait to clip just this section and share it on Instagram and social media so all my audience can start implementing that today. Now, we are coming close to the end of the episode, and I always like asking this question because it is a little self-serving, but I have your 10-year-old self here, Kevin. He's standing beside me. We want to offer him one single piece of advice to help young Kevin go through life. What piece of advice are we offering him?
I think the best advice is to get advice. The best advice is to get advice from someone who knows what they're doing, because you can't know everything. A 10-year-old or 20-year-old or 30-year-old, it doesn't matter what the age, is to get good advice. Now, a 10-year-old, it might be from your parents, but good advice is the key because it puts you on the right path to where you want to go. I think that's the best.
I have to fully agree with that, Kevin. I think that's some amazing life advice. Always stay curious, always ask questions, always keep investing in yourself. Kevin, I'm going to jump off the screen here. I want you to let my audience know where they can find you, how they can follow you, support you, or even, jump on that call and save or find $100,000 in their business. So the floor is yours.
Yep. Hi, everybody. So you can find me at my website, kevinhargraves.com.au. You can go there and schedule a call with me. We can just have a chat. Tell me where you are, what you want to do. I'm happy to give you a free call. Always do that. You can download my book or my magazine interview from that website as well. And there's a bit of information on there that's worth a read. So that's the best way to contact me. As I said, you can book a call. And I'll call you. Just leave your number and first name. I'll give you a call and we can chat about whatever you want to do with your business. More than happy to do that. I think that's the best way. Or you can email me at info@kevinhargraves.com.au. That's info@kevinhargraves.com.au.
Kevin, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast and sharing all your wisdom with my audience.
More than welcome, Phil.
To my audience, remember, check out the show notes down below to connect with Kevin, get that free simulation, as well as getting access to his books and magazines. I thank you again for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself. Hey, digital entrepreneurs, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Now, if you're looking to take your podcast to the next level, like most of these entrepreneurs have taken their business to the next level, to scale it, if you will, make sure you check out my brand new newsletter. Links are down below. It is called the Monetization Mogul Syndicate newsletter, or it could be Phil Better Stories of Monetization Moguls, or Making Moguls is what I do. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. But I want to thank you very much for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.